Hey, welcome back to Diabolic Shrimp, the least professional talk show on the internet. I'm your host, best-selling author, comic creator, and video game designer, Josh Grant. And it's so great to have you all here on the show. If you're watching this live over there in the live chat, we love being interactive on the show. So throw any questions you might have over in the live chat. We love to put our guests in the hot seat here. So ask them some questions. Come play some trivia with us. We'll have a little bit of a spy gadget trivia later on. And so definitely do that. If you're catching this later, down in the comments below, throw any comments that you might have down there in the comments below. I love to share those with our guests, even if you're just catching this later on the channel. If you have no idea what this is, Diabolic Shrimp is connected to the website Diabolic Shrimp. I'm on a journey to interview interesting and famous people from around the world. So if you want to join me in that, or any of the proceeds I actually get from selling books, I take a portion of that or advertising or whatever, and I give that to universally good things like childhood disease research or ocean exploration and cleanup. So if you want to be a part of that in a nice free way, hit that subscribe button, ding that bell for notice, make it burn. And so go ahead and just join us on that journey. But tonight we're talking all about the hit spy series, Perception and Deception. There's an amazing, just high quality audiobook dramatization of the book, and it's just incredible to me. I've listened to it. It's like watching a movie, but with your ears. I don't know, watching a movie with your ears, and so it's just incredible. It's just it's got music, it's got sound effects, it's just got incredible voice acting, and we're going to talk to the cast of the voiceovers this evening for our part 2 of this special event. But before we get there, I want to take a look at one of our highlighted books, just one this evening. And so we have Sky Fighters Part 7, Secrets of the Past by Ross Eberly. 3 powerful, high-level sky fighters are missing in action. Find out who they are in Sky Fighters Part 7, Secrets of the Past. It's quite an epic series. It's kind of fantasy, kind of sci-fi, and it's just a lot of fun, actually. It's got a lot of characters. There's a lot going on in those. So if you want to check out those highlighted books as well, down in the description below, you can find those, as well as Perception and Deception, the audio book. You can listen to samples of it. So before I bring on our cast, I just want to introduce Andrea Hintz. She wrote this. She also acted in this. So Andrea Hintz is a Christian First fiction author, screenwriter, songwriter, video game writer, blogger, website designer, and audio engineer, driven to create adventure through various avenues of art. You might have heard her, especially for our overseas audience. She's been on the radio in England for the Beatles song cover of Yesterday. And so actually some of our cast here this evening actually participated in that as well. So we'll definitely have to ask them about that. But without further ado, they've been waiting in the wings for a while. So let's bring them on. Welcome to Diabolic Shrimp.
Hey there. Thank you for
Thank
having
you so much.
Well, it's so great to have you all on, Andrea. It's so great to have you on again. If anyone's that's watching, last night we had our first part of this with a different part of the cast, and so definitely check that one out. You can actually learn a lot more. Tonight we're going to learn a lot of. I have a lot of different questions that will kind of cover some different aspects of it, and we also have Annette Hintz and Chris Lovejoy. Like Annette, you played Janice in the book, yeah.
That's right.
And then Chris, you were front and center as Ashton in the book.
I sure was. It was a very fun time.
Yeah, it's full secret
great
agent there, right? And so,
Yeah,
well, here,
absolutely.
I think it's a great way to introduce people, though. Like Andrea has been on the show before. In fact, if you're a longtime fan of the show, Andrea was like my 3rd or 4th interview on the show. So watch that. Like Andrea said last night, December is the Andrea month. Andrea comes on the show pretty much every December, right? And so we'll get you on maybe next December as well. But so definitely watch back there. But I think a great way to introduce people is through a bit of a show and tell. Did anyone happen to bring anything for show and tell? I was putting Chris on the spot, making him get it. So Annette, let's start with you. Annette, what did you bring us for show and tell?
I have 3 short things that I'll try to keep under 12 seconds.
Annette's a teacher in life, right? And so this is when you call in a kid, they're always like, I have 6 questions. Go ahead. I'm giving you a hard
one. Well, retrospect, yeah. So I always have my Bible on my phone, and I love my Bible. And one of the things that happens in the world is I get in a big rush. What should I do? What should I do? Where should I go? When people ask me for advice, how can I advise them and all of that stuff, especially as a teacher. And I stumbled onto this verse, and it's just really short. It's Romans 4, and it said, Abraham entered into what God was doing for him, and that was the turning point. He trusted God to set him right instead of trying to be right on his own. And I have to work on that a lot because, as a teacher and a mom, you want to control a lot. So that was really relieving and relaxing for me. So I shared that. The next thing is Bible, then my family. I hope you can see them, but they're, oops, am I going the right way? That's my family. I'm a mom of 2 boys and a girl and 5 grandchildren and a wonderful husband. He's in there somewhere. So my family. So it's God, family. And then for my joy and entertainment, I have a lot of guitars. And this is my latest one.
A lot of guitars.
It's a beauty. So anyway, that's my latest one. And that's my.
I'm gonna have to make you play something later, Annette.
I'm afraid. Oh no, they're barking.
It's okay. They'll quiet down in a second.
Yeah, they'll shut.
That's okay. We love animals on the show too, so you can bring the animal.
I bring them, but they
yeah. So well, that's fun. Yeah, I'll have to get I've got my old Bible that I've had pretty much my entire life or whatever, but it's like super thick. I don't know what paper it's made of. It's like a chunk, you can throw the book at somebody. So it's like,
yeah,
be nice to have one that's like, on your phone or something. I don't know. So Chris, what did you bring for Diabolic Shrimp Beer?
I am so glad you asked, Josh. I brought a little tiny Buddha statue that one of my buddies got for me when we went on a trip to Hampton Beach in New Hampshire when I was like 15, maybe. Just popped into some random shop, and I think he just found this on a shelf, and I think he just got it for my birthday. But I've always had it, and it's always been it's got a good amount of weight to it too, and he's just such a little smiley, happy dude.
You can use it to hold your script down so it doesn't fly away.
Yeah, exactly. It's got a good amount of weight. But yeah, it's just been I don't know. It's a fun little desk trinket, and it's I just kind of loosen up when I see it. It's fun.
Yeah,
but yeah,
that's you're definitely bringing the Zen, Chris. You did some yoga earlier, and now you got you got Buddha on here. So you'll bring our balance back here. I feel enlightened actually. So I'm loving it actually. We have all the spirituality here this evening, and so Andrea, what about you? Did you happen to bring anything?
I'm probably going to continue.
Round 2.
Well, so back when I was first on the show in 2020. I used my cross necklace as my show and tell. And I've kind of noticed that over the past 10 years, I wear a cross necklace every day, and every year or two something happens and I have to change it out. It breaks or it wears out or I just need a new one. And so it was time to change them out again. And so I decided to continue the tradition of December of 2020. I had to change out my old one. Yesterday was my first day wearing it. So let's put some good memories on it and see what happens over the next couple of years.
There we go. Get some good wear and tear in a good way. And so, all right, Andrea, I'm going to throw this to you. I know last night we talked a bit about it, but for anyone that didn't get a chance to catch the show last night, give us the overview, Perception and Deception. I've read it and I reviewed it. Fantastic spy series. And we're talking the audiobook this evening. So just give us the general overview of kind of what's going on in Perception and Deception.
Awesome. Well, so it's about a young female spy who goes to work in a small town, and also from the point of view of a young man named Ashton, played by Chris, and he's the owner of a grocery store in town, and they meet and fall in love, and then chaos ensues after that. My mom.
That's actually the surname of this show, Diabolic Shrimp. Chaos ensues. So
chaos ensues. Yeah. And my mom plays Janice, who also works across the street from Ashton's grocery store and a cafe. So she owns the cafe, and she's kind of like a motherly figure towards the characters and like advises them. So yeah, that's kind of like the main overview of the book.
Groovy. I was like, Annette's actually going to go advise somebody right now. And so, so all right, so let's go around the table a bit and share just a bit about your character, and then we'll dive on into it, like dive into the process. We'll actually jump to Chris first. Chris, you're playing Ashton, so you're front and center here in Spyville. So tell us just a little bit about Ashton.
Yes, Ashton Mathis is a guy who basically just kind of like never left home, and he ends up working in and inheriting this grocery store kind of a deal, and works there, and just, you know, he's a man of the town. He's been there for pretty much his whole life, and it's been a kind of the status quo, and yeah, and then this lady comes along and all chaos breaks out, but it's fun. It was a cool character to play, and kind of getting that glimpse into, from his point of view, that like, ooh, there's like, what is this? Is this spy stuff? What kind of spy stuff are we going to get into, you know? And he's, you know, he's like a goofy kind of, not goofy. He's genuine. He's got a big heart. And he's, you know, that's Ashton.
Well, he's like small town guy, right? It's like, and like I loved that, like, you know, like you said, we get that different perspective into the story through Ashton, of like, you know, the outside perspective, like, I'm not a spy and what's going on, you know. It's like, and so it's part of the fun of it. So we'll jump up to you, Annette. So Annette, you played Janice, and so tell us just a little bit about Janice.
Sorry, I got my annual cough from the kids.
Yes.
Oh no.
She's been under the weather. So if you have to pass it to me or anything like that, do you need a second?
Yeah, no problem.
I'm good.
Okay.
Just like a day at teaching. Cough,
yeah, you just have to push through.
Yeah.
So Janice is the owner of a local diner, and she kind of likes to keep tabs on everything going on in town, and she's not afraid to ask anybody, what's going on, so that she can kind of know what's going on. She's very attached to Ashton. I think she thinks of him as her son, and she wants to know what's going on, and then she becomes attached to Felix as the book continues. So I'm kind of just in there being the nosy mom. Oh, like I am.
No.
Well, that's what I love about I was like, perception and deception is fun because of like the characters. It's like you have the spy drama, you have the intrigue, but there's also the fun in there, and you get these very real characters. Chris, you nailed it really well. Genuine. You got a lot of good, genuine people in there, and that's something that I really enjoyed about it when I was reading it, and in capturing that is like, you get all the fun of spy world, but you also get all the depth and the fun of like genuine actual people, and that's what I love. Characters like Janice, like coming along in there. So Andrea, leading lady, Felix. All right, so you brought Felix to life literally by writing Felix and then playing Felix in the book. So give us just the brief about Felix. What's going on with her?
Well, so Felix is very young. She's 21 years old. She started in the agency at a young age because her parents were helped to like found the agency that she works for. And she, right before we're introduced to her in the first chapter, in the months before, she went through a mission that went bad, which is detailed later in the book, but she went through a rough mission. And so when we meet her for the first time, she's like not operating at 100%. She's like still processing all those feelings and just kind
that's the other surname of this show, not operating at 100%.
Not operating at 100%. Sure. So basically she ends up moving to this small town under the disguise of being like a nature photographer. And that's how Ashton knows her at the beginning of the book. He doesn't know that she's an agent or anything. And yeah, that's really her character, and just her, building her relationships with all the people in the town, both for professional reasons and for personal reasons, because she's like an empathetic character that loves to build relationships with all the people around her. So she sometimes crosses the professional with the personal.
Yeah, well, and you mentioned that people have said like, this character is you, and I've always known you to be an empathetic character who cares about the people around her. And so, and I also, for the record, don't trust any nature photographers. I assume they're all spies. So, all right, so let's take a look at your characters in a different way. I like to use my my Bond scale of a spyology. It's official. It's my spectrum of spies, right? And so let's take a look at your characters. Last night we used good old James Bond himself, but this time around we have, let me bring it up here.
Ooh.
In theory. There we go. And so
all the bad guys.
we have our Bond villains this time around. I know some of them are kind of small. Don't worry. It's like they're you have all these like various villains in Bond, right? You have like Jaws. I love this saying. His name is Jaws. He kills people. And so you have Jaws with his metal teeth. I mean, Bond. Part of the fun of spies is kind of the villain too, right? And you got the lady with the shoe that can stab people. Christopher Walken with his weird horse racing or something. And
I picked Christopher Walken on anything. So there.
That was actually a terrible Bond movie. And so and then you have like the man with the golden gun. He was like kind of he's like an assassin version of Bond. Yeah, Scaramanga. I always call it the man with the third nipple. They made a big point of him having a third nipple in that movie. It was really bizarre. And so they have 006. He's basically James Bond, but he's gone evil. So they're all meant to be this like foil for your main character, and they're supposed to kind of capture that theme. So think about your character, all right, and what would be the perfect villain for your character based on like their aspects. So based on how they're genuine. So it's like if you have an honest character, then the good or trusting character, then a good villain for them would be someone that betrays that trust or tries to get their trust, the femme fatale figure, right? And so thinking about your character, what type of villain, you're not picking from the list here, but it's like, what type of villain would be perfect for your character based on who they are? Sorry if that's a complicated one. I was just having some fun.
I got mine right now.
Go for it, Chris. Go for it.
I was gonna say it's perfect for the scale. Actually, if you could bring that photo.
Oh, back, sure. Let's bring the scale back.
I got a whole it works immediately. I was like, dude. So in GoldenEye, we have, I think his name is Elliot something, who is, I can't remember if it was 009 or 006. Yeah, exactly.
006. Yeah.
Yeah. So he is best buddies with James. Like they're on missions together. We don't see any of this on screen, but it's assumed that they have a good good relationship, good history together. They're both great at their job. And then whoops, double cross. It's betrayal. It is Giannis. And that is what I'm going to say would be the perfect villain for Ashton. Because he's trusting, and then ends up having one of his best buddies be like, hey, I'm not your friend, pal.
So
maybe also the surname of this show.
I'm not your friend. So all right, so Andrea, Annette here, I'll throw it to you. Andrea, you know your characters well, so let's talk Felix. Like what would be the perfect villain for her? I mean, you have some great villains in your book, so I was like, but what would be the perfect villain for Felix, just based on her character and who she is? Like what type of villain would be perfect for her?
I suppose, I first of all, I was thinking like exactly Chris's answer about the double crossing, because there's a lot of double crossing in this book, and then throughout the whole series. It's kind of a theme, and you never quite know who to trust, just like in real life.
Andrew's had a rough go of it.
I know, yeah. Josh knows it all. Anyways, anyone who has to anyone who plays to her empathy, anyone that comes across needing help, having difficulties, and then they turn around and they're not who they say they are. That's like the perfect villain, for her character in particular. That will be her kryptonite. And the question is, will she ever learn? No, okay. But But yeah,
Yeah, well,
that's
I'll
my
say
answer.
I would definitely, I can definitely say, and like I said, you have fantastic villains in your book. I just didn't want to spoil them, so don't actually bring up the real villain, I guess. But and Annette, you talked about talking about Janice and
Mhm.
this kind of nice like kind of motherly figure. Who would be her villain just in general?
So her villain would be, really kind of follows along all the way through. Janice is, it's kind of funny too, if you think about it. If you read the book, you kind of know that's kind of a common theme with these three characters, is that Janice wants to know what's going on, but she doesn't want to know what's going on in a mean, spiteful, gossipy way. She wants to know just for awareness, and she wants to know so that she can be of help. I mean, like even when there were times when she was concerned for Ashton and for Felix, that she said, implied that she had their back. So a horrible villain to her would be someone that she really wants to find out about and support and do wonderful things for, and they take that trust and use it against her or someone that she loves. That would be her most horrible villain.
Yeah, so betrayal is the ultimate
Mhm.
villain, if you ask me.
Mhm.
And so, except for myself, my character being like the only enemy that could defeat me would be Jaws, and it put some metal in their teeth, and they're the ultimate enemy. And so
That's a bad
he fell
guy.
from space and survived.
I
So
gotta write you a part in the book, Josh.
I'll be in there. I'll just be Jaws. Like we'll make like clanging metal teeth noises, and I'll use a can opener like we were talking about last night.
Can
And
openers
so
and clank some salt shakers together.
I'm gonna draw this now. I'm gonna put it in one of my comics. And so, all right, let's go around. Let's actually start with you, Chris. But how did you prep for your role? Like, was there anything that you did to like prepare for your role? I mean, or did you just kind of wing it? Or and what was maybe challenging about your role?
Yeah. So I guess to answer your question, I have to go back to the beginning. I was
Yes.
born in New
all the way
Hampshire.
back.
All the way back. I was born in New Hampshire and like just grew up there and lived there all my childhood and most of my all of my parents still live there. So I basically effectively live in New Hampshire. But right now, live in New York and lived in Boston before. But like having roots in a place like that and understanding, the small town vibe and what that kind of means between people that grow up together and what that means when people go off and leave and or then come
Mhm.
back or like dreams that they might have to go off and do things or dreams that they might have to stay and do things or dreams that they might have that never ended up happening and something completely different ended up happening. So when I was when I was getting ready for this, I kind of thought more about, well, what would have happened if somebody like me didn't go and leave basically, and if they stayed in like whatever, like what that would mean for interactions with your own townspeople and people that you've known for pretty much your whole life. um, and then the part that I couldn't really prep for in my own world was run-ins with spy agencies and car chases and all that, that stuff yet.
We'll
But
schedule that for
James
you
Bond.
after the show here. I'll send a team.
Yeah, yeah, I'm looking
So
forward
yeah,
to
well,
it.
I was
I'll
like,
sign a waiver,
You're due out
you actually
front in
already
about
did.
10 minutes and we'll have a car
Yeah,
chase ready to go.
Yeah.
yeah. I do my own
I'll
stunts in
film
the
that.
audiobook. Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, well, you bring a whole new meaning to born for the role, right? And so you were
Well,
literally
that's what
born
stood
for
out to
the
me about Chris. When I hired him, he wrote a cover letter about, his experience in the small towns and that he felt like he was a really good fit for the role because of that. And that really stood out to me. So if you're watching this and you're trying to get into voiceover work, those cover letters matter. Like, go for it. Even if you have to like copy and paste and personalize, just put something in there because they're sifting through, like in my case, 1,500 applications,
yeah.
and it gets a little tiring. So when you have something like cool to catch your eye, a nice letter, a message, anything, totally worth it to do that. So
Well, groovy. And so let's jump up to Annette. Like Annette, what did you do to prepare for your role, or did you do anything to prepare for it, or were you just like, I'm just gonna go for it?
So, well, as far as preparing, I did read the book. I've read all her books. They're very excellent. And I always, as a mom, go, wow, all that's in your head. Wow. Just Wow.
You're like, uh-oh, all that's in your head.
Yeah, that's usually what my
I
family
never heard any of
said
this.
when I was writing horror books. They're like, oh.
Yeah. Anyway, so I did read the books, and honestly, when the role came up, I'd kind of forgotten because I'd read the book quite a bit earlier,
Years
and I
prior.
remember, years prior. And so I said, well, let me see what some of the lines are. I thought, okay. And then it was when we were recording, and Andrea read the prefaces, the stuff that came before, and it says, there she was, a tired old woman with fuzzy brown hair.
I didn't write the role for you, Mom.
And I started laughing. I think that's the part I loved the most, was laughing. But as far as preparing, I kind of just used what life brought me. It reminds me of what Chris says. I mean, he was born for the role. It's like, I kind of saw her as sort of a motherly type, and being a teacher, you need to know what's going on with everybody in your class so you can do the right thing for them. And so
I didn't. That's why I was a bad teacher. I just sat back there like, oh, you guys go do your own thing. I'm gonna read.
You were a good teacher, though. You just have to find out. But anyway, so I just kind of I read the book, used my background, and then I told Andrea jokingly, yeah, I just went, I'm ready. I really didn't. No, I did, read it. I did read the book and try to apply. My favorite actresses are the ones that are themselves. Diane Keaton, she is Diane Keaton in any movie that she plays in. Goldie Hawn is Goldie Hawn in any movie she plays in. They're different characters, they do different things, and they do them wonderfully, but you still hear their voice. And I just wanted to be me, because I figured I like people the most that are themselves and that aren't affected and do those odd little head tilts that don't quite fit in with the character. So
nobody could see the head tilts. You're on audio.
Yeah, right.
Don't do the voice tilts, you just
The
gotta
voice
make sure you don't do that.
So that was my prep, not, no class, was just everything I experienced in life. As a teacher, you're an actor every day.
Yeah.
Every day you go in and you act.
Set the scene for me though. So I'm kind of curious, like, because I came from stage world and teaching world as well, right? It's like, because teaching, all the world is stage, and teaching is definitely a bit of a stage, but stage world and teaching actually very similar. Like you interact with the audience almost. The audience is almost a character, and you kind of play off of that. You play off of each other. You see the whole play, so you get the whole picture.
Right.
What was recording an audiobook like? And Andrea, I'm curious from you, what was directing an audiobook like? So let's start with Andrea, and then I'll jump it back over. So Andrea, like, what was that process like for directing? Like, tell me about it. I actually don't know much about it.
Sure. Well, this was something I had not done before. And it was a brand new process for me. And I have to say, from a directorial standpoint, before I get into the rest of this, that I give all the credit to all the actors here. You guys are like the talent.
Andrea is always so supportive.
I
talk about shameless self-promotion. We're all about shameless self-promotion on here. But Andrea is always giving it up to everyone else. So you're always so nice, Andrea.
I didn't have to get call anyone up and say, hey, you need to redo this. This doesn't sound anything like the character. Like, everyone really understood their characters and really portrayed them very well. So from like a directorial standpoint, except for myself, I was pretty hands off. I just told them what the character was, what their personality's like, handed it to them, and they all did such a beautiful job. And then as for just, putting it together, that was an interesting process. I had been on backstage.com myself for applying for a few roles here and there. But I was like, I'm going to make my own posting for this audiobook. And we got so many people that applied for it. Like I said earlier, 1,500 people. So all the people who got hired are like the best of the best of the best. And I listened to everyone. I spent weeks listening to everyone that applied, because I wanted to give everyone an equal shot, and so that was really, really fun. And then the next challenge of it was the audio piece of it. So I'm going to do a quick shout out to Tony Bryant, my audio editor. He's the owner of Sunny Studio. I was staying up all night long for months trying to figure out how to balance the audio out on all of this because it was new. I have a musical background, so I had experience with like GarageBand, but an audiobook turns out is quite different than recording and mixing a song. I didn't really know that. And so I like prayed and I was like, I need help. Bring me someone who can help me. And I was really scared to get, to reach out to people for help. But I found Tony right after that. And he did a lesson with me about audio. He's in the UK. And I was like showing him all my equipment over the Zoom chat, and he was helping me balance everything out. And so I learned so much about audio along the way. So that was a really beautiful piece of it. And then I had to learn like, okay, how do I get like, commercial free, music that can be used for commercial use and sound effects. I'm like, am I going to have to make all the sound effects myself and be, banging on stuff all around the house and scooting chairs, or can I like get this somewhere? And I ended up finding there were a couple sounds in there that were made at home, but most of them, 99% of them were from storyblocks.com. Great place.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I was like,
really
it'd
good.
be tough to do all that. Ollie, I mean, you did so much work. It was fantastic to hear it and just like all the sound effects. And I can't even imagine being a Foley artist and having to like do all those sound effects. But I'm just so blown away by like you bringing all that together. Again, like we talked a little bit last night, but it's like I had reached out to Andrea about when I was doing a trailer actually to get some of her take on it, because I was doing a zombie trailer some months ago for my zombie comic coming up, and like I only had like 4 lines to deal with and like 1 music track, and that's it. I really didn't have like a lot of sound effects.
You're so humble. You didn't need help with anything. All you did was you sent it to me and I said, sounds good. And that was it. So.
I needed to get another ear on it. So you were a lot of help. I was like listening to the same like line like 50 million times, like the universe is infinite. It's like, it's in my nightmares still. And so it's like, I needed to hear somebody else, because I'm like, they all just sound bad to me by this point. I was like, none of it's good. And so I just like, we retook that like so many times. So Chris, tell me a bit, like, because Andrea mentioned like music wise, and then Annette, you can fill in on this too, because you're all musical people. I'm not a musical person, but it's like I came from a theater background, and so I kind of approached my parts very differently. I think when I was directing my brother, he comes from a music background. He's a hip hop artist. It was really fascinating to me because he was very aware of different things like tone and all this stuff. He was very aware of these things. And so I'm curious, Chris, like you come from a musical background. And so like, did any of that like feed into your part, or were they very different processes?
100%. Yeah. So like, yeah, it's all just, you gotta get heard, right? You have to make sure you're loud enough, but you also like, you're saying things that like long sentences, but you want to make it sound real. But you have to make sure that it sounds like you can hear it, the whole thing. And you have to like, there's so much of that.
There's the old saying we had in theater, like the audience will forgive you if you can't act, but they won't forgive you if they can't hear you. And so that's what I was
exactly. And so like I grew up, playing guitar and singing and playing drums and just being around music. And then when I got into college, I got into a cappella for the first time. And that is really what kind of opened me up to like how much you can do and how much it's up to you to do it, because it can sound one way and it can sound another way, but like just how much power you have, and being able to find a way to do that and sing long notes, but still make it sound good or whatever, so that was really kind of the first way into that for me. And then, but I've always been into acting. Like I grew up doing theater too. So that had definitely helped with projecting and, but still, not making it sound like you're singing every word, like it's so the audience doesn't know that like, oh yeah, clearly this is just something that they're reading off of or singing off of. Same thing for this. Like you don't want to make it sound like you're reading it for the first time. You don't want to make it sound like you're reading it at all. You want to just make it sound as natural as possible. So just putting all of that together, and that's really what kind of it took for me to do it.
What was one of the most challenging ones? I had a so I used to be an actor. I used to do I did a wonderful play called All My Sons by Arthur Miller. It was a great tragedy, but like but for a whole like every night of the play, like I'd have to do this whole breathing thing. It was a very emotional part, and I had to do this whole yelling monologue. And it was like the most nightmarish thing for me, like in practice, because it was like I had to get the breathing right, I had to get the drama right, but then it's like it was all about the voice though. It was all about this note I was trying to hit when I would do the yelling part, and I would have to get that right. But then I would have to get slapped right beforehand by my wife in the play.
Oh
She would
my
slap me
God.
and then storm out, and I would do this breathing thing, and then I would have to deliver this note, and I was trying to hit that right note, and like she would miss all the time though, and she like would like karate chop me in the jaw, or like one night she boxed my ear, and I'm like the room's like spinning, and I'm like, all right, don't fall into the audience, and then I'm like, and get the note right, and then it's like, so I'm like,
no.
what was for you though, like one of the what was one of the most challenging scenes or like lines to hit?
Anything that involves action is always so hard. And most of the time you're doing stuff anyways when you're talking, like in everyday stuff. Your body's moving when you're talking for the most part, or you're walking, whatever. So in this, like action specific things that are happening that I'm also like talking during would probably be the toughest to make sound believable and also sound like I'm actually doing what I'm doing. So like I can't remember a line specifically, but if I were to be saying something and then the narration line would be like Ashton said, as he fell through a ceiling or something like that. You have to make it sound like that, you know.
Oh, we need to rewrite. We need to add that in there.
Yeah, I was like, I was always joking. I was saying I need like going out for voice acting. I feel like, you know, everyone specializes in something. I saw all these like voiceover people that were like, I specialize in a South African accent. I'm like, oh, okay. But like, but I was like, I'm going to specialize in just like those action noises, like, like I can just like sell that to video games, you know.
It is crazy. Yeah, the more that like I've been doing this and like this opening up my world so much to just what goes into making a soundscape too. And so all the sounds that you hear from movies, video games, like anything like that, they're all like they're there on purpose, and somebody had to record those things, and they had to get those actions right, like the grunts and the oomph and the
well, that's why I find
hilarious.
fascinating.
Hang on, do that again. I'm going to record all of that and put it in the next
So the rest of this show for like 20 minutes, we're all just going to make weird noises. And so like, I just find it fascinating. It's like, because it's like, you know, I come from the theater world where everything's combined. It's like, you see the whole play. You're all in voiceover world where it's like, you only kind of see your own part half the time. Like you don't even half the time have someone talking back to you. You're just recording your line. And then Andrea took it all and like put it all together. So it's so fascinating to me that it's like, you just have to have this part where it's like, I'm running and I have to just deliver this. Whereas on stage, you'd actually be kind of jogging across the stage, right? It's like, so it's like fascinating to me that you would just have to record that. And so Annette, what was the experience like for you, like recording an audiobook, and did that relate at all from, because you also come from a musical background?
Right. You know, we've had music in our family forever. And, you know, as soon as we can, we stick a guitar in the kids' hands, same with me, and played a lot of instruments, and we played in church. And you know, it was different. And what was really different for me is when we played in church, we always had those big monitor amplifiers in front of us, or some of them were little, whatever. And you could hear your own voice that way. And that's a different way of hearing your voice than it is when you put the headphones on and you hear your voice. For me, we had to get over the first, like, I would say, I don't know, maybe like hours worth of laughing hysterically because it sounded so horrible. And I'm sure I'll listen to this and go, wow, that. But anyway, it was so different because those monitors, they bring your voice together. They got filters on them, and they make you rich. They smooth everything. Listening to your voice on the earphones, it gets a very high, irritating, crackly, pitchy timbre. And so I had to work on that and try to lose a little of that because it was hard for me to listen to. But it was like your actor said last night, which was practice, 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 and you could bring that down. And now I just have a bronchitis voice, so we got to live with that. But anyway,
it makes a nice husky voice, right?
Got up for this, yeah, right.
Sexy husky
now
voice.
I be talking a little lower. Yeah, this would be different. But anyway,
yeah, I find that interesting. because there is so much thought
different.
that goes into that, right? It's like and it just blows my mind because it's like you said, you had to kind of redo a lot of it, and laughing because I was like, that's what my brother and I were doing when we were just doing this trailer. And it's like I come from acting world, I'm used to projecting out, but it's like when I would try and do it, I sound like Chewbacca. I'm like, raw, and then I like try and talk like in an accent, and it'd be like super quiet and pencily. So it was just fascinating. We just had a lot, but again, the universe is infinite. We'll just constantly play in my head.
Can we hear that Chewbacca yell, Josh?
I used to do a good R2, actually, R2D2, and so I do a good Yoda, actually. But
he does. I've heard of the Yoda before.
So anyways, we're going to jump in now. We're going to play a little bit of Spy Gadget trivia. For those of you that are watching us live over in the live chat, you're more than welcome to play some Spy Gadget trivia. I know Annette was on playing last night in the live chat. So was Andrea was on. So don't you worry. There's some different questions. So we have Spy Gadget trivia. I'm just going to show you 6 different slides, and all you have to do is just throw out what you think the Spy Gadget does. Now, these are all actual Spy Gadgets that were actually used. Every single one of them is an actual Spy Gadget that was really used in spycraft. And so,
is there going to be anything embarrassing in here again, Josh?
I'm sorry. I was showing the dog poop one. There was like a one that looks like dog poop, and they it's like a transmitter, but they're like no one picks up dog poop. Don't worry, there's no dog poop this time.
I will get my revenge on you for that. I'm kidding.
So, all right, here we go. So, well, I don't know. I actually haven't looked at these slides in a bit, so we'll see what's actually on there. So, all right, what is it and what does it do? Just throw it out there.
Camera, an observation camera.
Audio recorder.
Wireless transmitter.
Yeah. So this one, I mean, in a way, it's kind of all of the above. It was an audio recorder. It's a Dragonfly drone. And what blows my mind, this is from the 70s. I didn't even think they had like drone technology then, but it was from the 70s. It had a motor actually, and it could only fly for 1 minute. So I have no idea what they were trying to record with this like buzzing motor for 1 minute of audio. But
never talk around a dragonfly that dies by you.
I don't trust dragonflies anyway. Dragonflies and nature photographers, they're all spies. And so, all right, here we go. Speaking of. What is it and what does it
cameras.
do?
Yeah,
I feel like
cameras on pigeons.
Yep, they're pigeon cameras. Those were actual pigeons though, so those weren't motorized. This one was actually from World War II, and so
they seem like they should work in the tiki room at Disneyland. Those creepy robot birds that I love so much.
So, how about this one?
Camera glasses.
I should give you a hint. It's not as high tech as you think.
What is that red light? Audio or
like a microphone?
Yeah, good guess. That's actually your cyanide pill. So they had their little hidden cyanide pill in their glasses in case they were captured. So
wow.
Oh wow.
All right, next up.
Oh, like a little bomb?
A lump of coal.
Yeah, Annette and Andrea kind of both got it. So yeah, they were bombs. So you have a coal bomb and you have a makeup kit bomb.
Oh wow!
I don't know why there was a piece
for an explosive look.
Yeah, there you go. Those lashes are banging. All right, what do we got here?
A flashlight.
It looks like a flashlight.
A flashlight with a laser that cuts through metal or something.
Oh yeah, it does have those little
I wish it was a laser one. It's just a gun. It's a flashlight gun. Last night we had like the lips. Yeah, they had the lipstick gun last night, and they had the pipe gun. I don't know what it was about putting stuff in your face. It's a gun. Now it's a flashlight. So I guess push the right button to turn it on. Don't. And last up here, very stylish. What do you
There's
think
got to
these
be a
were used
knife in
for?
one of those,
I was going to
right?
say that must be one of those knife boot things everyone's talking about.
Something
Now,
to kick some butt with, that's for sure.
it's actually weirdly the opposite, like avoiding fighting. So these were worn by World War II bomber pilots, and so if they were crash landed in the enemy country, they can actually tear away the boots. The top would tear off, and they would look like everyday people shoes, I guess. I don't know, and so they can like blend
Oh,
in with the population. So
wow.
stylish. And so, yeah, I don't know what it was about. Again, we were talking about this last night. I don't know what happened in the 70s, but it's like spycraft got really weird. It was like everything was like lipstick guns and like shoe phones. They actually had a shoe phone like in Get Smart. And so I don't know what was going on there.
Oh
So
yeah.
talking about, I love like spyisms of like just goofy, like, you know, you went back to James Bond, right? James Bond was actually written by Ian Fleming. Ian Fleming was actually in World War II, is actually a spy. He was part of like the precursor to like OSS and which is the precursor to like CIA. So, and then he wrote about it in his book, but turns out all the interesting spy stuff. Christina is joining us also from last night, by the way. Christina says, as long as you don't combine the boots with the dog poop. Yes, I'm sorry. I traumatized everyone with the dog poop. I'm sorry. So, I didn't even think about it. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. At least I didn't have that. They had a dead squirrel one too. So at least I didn't put the dead squirrel up there. Okay.
Yeah, that's probably a better choice.
So you have all these fun spyisms sometimes in spy world, right? And so what would you say in the book and in the audiobook here, what were some of your kind of favorite spyisms that we kind of laced throughout there? So Andrea, since you wrote it, what would you say was some of the fun that you had in kind of placing some of these spyisms in there?
And this is like around gadgets again, right?
It could be gadgets or just in general spycraft.
I personally like loved exploring the idea of like people being spies in your everyday life, you know, just people you're walking on the street with, people you might not notice. That was really fun. I think one of my favorite references in there regarding that was like pedestrians, and so the agency has people called pedestrians who are just normal people that even the main character doesn't know who if they're spies or not, and they just kind of walk around the town and keep an eye on everything, on both, you know, the bad guys and on the spies. So that was kind of like it briefly mentioned, but the idea of it was fun for me.
Yeah. And so Chris, what was one of your favorite spyisms, and also what would you say is like maybe one of the most shocking spots for Ashton coming into this spy world?
Honestly, I think like a spyism that me as a lover of spy lore goes, and like just good kind of like not comedic timing, but just I guess the irony, like dramatic irony of situations that are going on. So you have, I think there's a scene where we're in a bowling alley and there's like this huge fight that's happening between Felix and an unknown assailant, and then I'm there too, just separate from it, and I have no idea that this is going on, and just kind of like that classic juxtaposition between how boring one of the characters' lives is at that moment and how insanely a fight for their life it is for somebody else in the same moment, and one of them's a spy. Figure out which one it is.
Yeah.
That I love that. I thought that was just like awesome. But you know, just like and also just, you know, having contact with, like, reading it again for me, not for Ashton knowing about all of these things until later in the book, but you know, the communication between the field and the HQ and what that looks like and the different technology used and ways for signaling each other, or I just thought that was awesome. I just love it.
Fun.
So
And so that's okay. I was like, we're all nerds on this show. So Annette, what about you? What would be one of your kind of favorite spyisms, I guess, of this world? Or
it's kind of a combination of what I've heard. You know, like with our faith, you know, we believe that, you know, there are angels in your life that are, you know, God prepares your way, and that there are things happening, and sometimes you can't recognize all of that. And that gives me this enormous hope and this enormous excitement of what the plan is for my life. And what I think when I read a spy book like that is I think about every person And every person was kind of a mystery to me. And I commented on it last night with Kelly and with Wolf, that when they spoke, there was a certain mystery where I was always, I don't know how they did it. They're professionals. They're brilliant. Chris has that incredible professional voice. I just always kept wondering, even though I knew what the story was, that's the weird part. I kept wondering, what secret are they really hiding? What's really going on? What are they going to do? What great
we'll
thing
answer
are they
that
do?
tonight. We'll answer that tonight with Chris. Chris, what are you hiding?
No,
There's a plan. Maybe it's the plan behind him.
It's the character. It's the character. I
Really
just
wanna
love
know.
that character. Yeah. Let's hear it. No, but
Well,
I like that. I like always wondering, is this a good person or a bad person? I like to think they're a good person, but I don't know. It doesn't quite make sense that they're here at this point in this time. So I think it's kind of, it adds to something that's already near and dear to me, which is,
This sounds like real life.
yeah, what's really happening and what do they really know? And I love that part of it. I guess that's why I'm interested in it. I like that intrigue.
So which do you prefer personally for each of you? Like back when I was acting, right? It's like I loved to be a good villain, and when I'm writing, I love to write in. I mean, I love to write in the heroes, but I'm like I really enjoy sometimes the villains. I don't know why. It's like, and so I'm a nice guy, I promise. But like, so like for you, which do you prefer? In this book and just in general, like whether it's like playing a character or just like reading one, which do you prefer, the heroes or the villains? So I'll throw that to you, Andrea.
I'm always going to be a fan of the heroes. As for like the only time that I'll kind of appreciate a villain, I suppose, is if they have a really if they had a good heart, but maybe they were like driven to, acting out the way they did because they were hurt or forced to, then I'll side sometimes like more with the villain and feel bad for them or have empathy for them. But generally, like, you should never do anything bad, right? Or if be pushed into it. But so like I always will vote for the hero all the way.
Groovy. Well, I'll have to change my title to Angelic Shrimp then, since I'm the villain on this show. And so Annette, how about yourself?
Villain.
Like, so thanks. And so Annette, villains or heroes?
I always leaned toward the heroes that were brilliant, that understood what was going. This is kind of the teacher thing again. When you understand why somebody is acting the way they are, then you can be more effective. And so the heroes that understand why the villains are the way they are, then they can be more effective in overcoming whatever they have to with them. And sometimes without being horrible, but with putting everything in the right spot. So that's what I like about heroes, solving problems.
I'm going to agree with you. The children are the villains in the classroom. And
No.
so they're all villains. I'm just joking.
They're not
get you in trouble.
villains. Yeah, really, thanks.
I'm not teaching anymore. I can agree with that.
No, they're not
Yeah.
Just why are they
I'm
doing
kidding.
what they're doing? And help them.
All of us old teachers, those kids pushed us over the edge. So, Chris, how about you? Heroes or villains? Heroes, villains, or children, which is kind of like anti-heroes.
Yeah.
No,
Well, that's funny that you say anti-hero, because I was gonna say I really do enjoy playing, and I've always loved watching the anti-hero. So like like somebody that is the hero, but like they're kind of not all there morally, or they're like, but you don't really know. You know that they're the good guy, but you don't know why, or you don't know for sure. And it's like maybe something's gonna happen where they're gonna kind of change their minds up and like go out the back to benefit themselves, but in the end, like at the end, they always come back around. And so I've always liked those characters too. And I don't know why the first one that comes to mind when I think of antihero is John McClane in the first Die Hard movie, where he's just like a normal guy. He's a cop in New York, and then he wasn't, and even as Bruce Willis, like he wasn't a physically imposing guy. He wasn't a huge like muscles from Brussels like Jean-Claude Van Damme or anything like that. He was just a normal guy. And so I think that definitely helped to draw an audience for that movie, but also invent a new fun type of character that you hadn't really seen, especially during that era of like an anti-hero. And he's not perfect, but he's going to get it done. And that's what makes him fun. you know.
That's also the surname for this show. He's not perfect, but he's going to get this done, you know. So, all right. So we're running a little short on time. So I want to kind of round us out here, because I want to pull from your wisdom. Like, what advice do you have for anyone looking to act or go into like the audio world in general? I know you all come from musical backgrounds as well, so that connects in too. So we have a lot of young people, or people that are new to the industry that like look, you know, that watch the show. And so what advice do you have for them going into either acting, voiceover, or audio music kind of world? So Annette, would you like to start us off?
Sure. Any advice I give to anybody that has a dream is to go for it and to continue to try and to not get disappointed. Because I think that, you know, right place, right time, everything happens for a reason. And if it's something that's in your heart, you should pursue it. It's better to have pursued and found out what you found out than to have just wondered what would it have been like if I had tried. And don't get disappointed, and look to experts. We live in a time of wonderful technology where anything you want to learn, pretty much you can learn. You can Google it, YouTube it, whatever, and find out about it. See if you like it. Try it. Join clubs. Get with other people who have the same interests. But just do it.
Awesome.
That would be my
awesome. Well, now, you know, that, again, I mentioned it last night too. That was the most shocking thing when I set out to just start some of this stuff myself. I was just like, you know, one of the things that someone said, it was like, the successful people pick up the phone, right? It's like 90% of people don't even pick up the phone and try, because it is a scary thing, right? It's like, and so give it a go, and you never know. So what about you, Chris?
Oh man, I would say, depending on, you know, what stage in your career you're at right now, if you want technical advice, dude, it's just demo, like real, get a backstage, and that's it. But like actual things and words that mean things, be yourself, you know, bring an edge, bring your own sense of yourself to whatever you do. And that's so cliched. So many people say that, and that's the truth. Like, even Andrea alluded to it earlier, like me saying, even in my cover letter, that I was from New Hampshire, that I understood the small town vibe thing. And like, yeah, I act, and I've been doing acting for a long time, and I can do it, you know, but it helps to be authentic and like go for things that you connect with. Don't just go for it because you think you got to go for everything and take everything that you can. Like, sure, starting out, maybe go for a lot of things, but go for things that you're interested in, you know, go for things that you can come back to a year later and actually be able to talk about and like be interested in and stay excited about, you know?
Yeah, that was you brought another great point there. It's like authentic, right? That's something that when I was going out for acting, it was just like you kind of get lost in this, like trying to be something you're not for a bit. And it's like, it's easy to do, but you know, I learned really quick that it's like the thing that actually resonates and actually even connects you even better with even professionally is that authenticity and actually being yourself. I mean, you do have to push yourself sometimes to grow, but at the same time, like being, you know, having a slice of you in there, I think is important. And so before we get to you, Andrea, let's see. PT Hintz Guitars says, "Hi, glad to be on here. It's glad to have you."
That's my brother, and he was also in our music cover we all did together. So that's Preston Hintz.
Oh yes. And so I for a second there, I saw the hints, and I thought it was Annette's guitar messaging us for a second there with PT Hintz Guitars. So I was like, oh, so it's like a spy device. It can talk itself.
Has a mind of its
all
own.
right, Andrea,
very nimble strings.
You get to, yeah, Andrea, you get to round us out here, being the director here. So what about you? What's your advice for anyone looking to get into audio world?
So I'm gonna kind of branch off a little bit what I said last night, but take a different route, you know. So there's new and exciting advice with each show, right? So first of all, I strongly believe personally in putting everything in God's hands. You know, when you get to that point where you're just banging your head against the wall and trying to get that yes, and you're on your 1000th no, leave it in God's hands, and great things happen. I know that when I kind of just took my hands off the wheel, that a lot of really wonderful things happened. It opened my mind to venture into other things. That being, another piece of that for me is venture out. If you're a creative person and you're talented in one area, for example, if you're a musician trying to make it big, or if you're in voice acting and trying to make it big, really branch out into other creative areas too, because you end up meeting people all along the way. Yes, Christina. Giving her heart. And it's really important to get yourself just involved with many things. So for example, I'm a musician. I love music. It's a big part of my life, just as much as my writing and audiobook projects. And this audiobook project, I was like taking a little break from the music. I'm like, I'm going to go venture into like doing some audiobooks. It's kind of combining like music and writing together. And so I ventured into that. And through that, I ended up meeting really talented people to collaborate with, like Chris Lovejoy, and like yes, and like my brother Preston. I already knew him prior, and Preston, and then my mom, of course, and I met my amazing audio editor Tony through that, and he's helped me with a lot of music stuff since then, even though we just started working on the audiobook initially. And and I got to collaborate with like his friends in the UK who have all these really amazing impressive backgrounds, and it was such an honor to be able to work with them. And I wasn't looking for it. It just came to me when I ventured into something else. So I guess my advice there is, if you're a creative person and it's not working in one area, God might be directing you somewhere else, not to give up on that dream, but to find the favorite connections and the people you're looking for along the way. And then you get to,
and you can gain, you can gain so much even in the failures, right? Sometimes you gain more from the failures, and so just trying it and then rolling with it. So I was like, sadly we are running low on time. I was like, thank you so much, each one of you, Annette, Chris, Andrea, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for
thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
An honor to be
yes and so hang out for a second. I'm going to send you back down below here. So so that was Andrea, that was Annette, that was Chris Lovejoy. Again, I'll get links from them later if they want. They can send it to Andrea. I'll put it down in the description below if you want to connect with them. If you're looking for voiceover and would like to hire them, in the description below as well is a link to the audiobook. Just another quick word from our highlighted book here, Fighters Part VII, Secrets of the Past, Ross Everly. Really cool action-y adventure book, since we were talking all this kind of action adventure this evening. And so it's just kind of a neat thing. And so, but yes, thank you all so much for joining us. PT Guitars, thanks for joining us from the back of an Uber, literally the back of the Uber. Maybe not the weirdest spot that someone's watching the show. It might be. You might have the record, actually. So thank you for joining us live. You're joining us later. Write in the comments there I would love to share those things with our guests, and hit that subscribe button. Check out my books down there as well if you want to be a part of this, or I give a portion of what I do to universally good things like childhood disease research. So come support me as well. And so thanks for joining us. This has been another Diabolic Shrimp. Have a good night.